What's up, y'all? Y'all know what time it is. Got a Tech Testimony Tuesday. He went from working in the parts department at a car dealership to breaking into tech as a Linux admin after he did YellowTail Tech. YellowTail Tech, of course, is a ed tech platform program. Some would consider it a boot camp, but it is much more than that. But not only did he break into tech as Linux, but later on, he came back around and actually is now also an instructor there. And so we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about his journey, his story as to what all he did, his experience. As always, make sure y'all have y'all's questions ready. Make sure y'all are posting that you have your questions ready, and that also that you're taking notes off of the different gems and nuggets that he is dropping. So, and as y'all see, it's pinned in the comments or pinned here on Instagram. Those that are interested in the same boot camp, make sure that you comment on Instagram, that you comment the word Linux, that you comment Linux admin, actually. And so that way you can get that discount, the discount information for the same boot camp that, excuse me, not boot camp, same school. Y'all know I call them boot camps, but same thing, the same platform that he did. Make sure you comment that so that way you can get a $500 discount. Also, if you're not sure if you want to do Linux or if you want to do cloud or something else that they teach there, you actually have a free consultation. Excuse me, I had a little quick interruption. All right, cool. Y'all should see me now. Had a little quick interruption. Anyway, make sure that y'all do comment Linux admin so that way y'all can get the information. Everybody on YouTube and LinkedIn, make sure that you look at the show notes down at the bottom so that way you can click on the discount link and get access to that. So let me switch this around. All right, y'all, as always, make sure that y'all go ahead and hit the like button right before we get started, especially if you are on YouTube and LinkedIn. That's the only thing I ask people to do is to make sure you hit the like button because, of course, y'all know how the algorithm works. We all know social media at this point. Aside from that, really excited about this conversation we are about to have. All right, good stuff. We're going to go ahead and get started. Let me actually bring him on here right now. I'm sitting here yapping. I need to bring him on while I am getting ready to bring him on to join with me. Make sure you put him in here. See Vera. Make sure, as always, not just to have y'all's questions ready, but also to be kind and polite to one another in the comments. To be kind and polite to one another in the comments, as well as make sure you are being kind and polite to yourself. The whole purpose of this is not to make anybody feel insecure, not to make you feel broke or less than. It's to encourage you, inspire, as well as educate. So again, make sure y'all got y'all questions ready so that way we'll be able to get into it for y'all. All right, so good stuff. So Chip, man, thank you so much, bro, for taking your time for coming on here.
No problem at all. Thank you for having me.
Hey, definitely, man. So look, can you adjust for your phone? Is there any way you can kind of adjust it or tilt it a little bit?
Let me try to bring it lower.
All right, y'all let us know if y'all are hearing any feedback. Want to make sure y'all are good when it comes to feedback.
Is that better?
Yes, it is. I'm trying to figure out why I am hearing you through the computer.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, are y'all hearing any feedback? I just want to make sure nobody's hearing feedback. Yeah, you said there's an echo. That might be, oh, I know why. That's okay. That's because I'm using this right now. So let me change something in my settings so that way it's not creating any feedback for anybody. Mic, speaker. All right, cool. All right, can you say something, Chip?
Testing.
Perfect.
All right, cool.
Perfecto. All right, wonderful, y'all. So look, we're gonna go ahead and get into it. Make sure y'all are putting your questions down in the designated question section on Instagram. There's a spot where you click and it'll open up a drop down to where you can post your questions. We are prioritizing questions first come, first serve. So any questions y'all have when it comes to cloud, when it comes to Linux, when it comes to breaking into tech, when it comes to things happening in the industry, when it comes to AI and AI and careers, and how the school that he went to, the ed tech platform, YellowTail Tech, how they are tackling that or addressing that as well. Make sure y'all have y'all's questions ready, because it's a really, really important stream and interview that y'all are going to be able to tune into. So let's go ahead and get started. So Chip, I initially had put down on the thumbnail that you went from being a car salesman to breaking into tech. You corrected me. And so you mentioned to me that you instead were in the parts department. So you were at a car dealership, but you weren't a salesman. You were in the parts department, which I know
Yes.
most people hierarchy wise will consider that even a lesser role than a car salesman. So honestly, that's even more impressive. If you can tell everyone really quickly, just on a quick high level, what school did you go to, like in terms of breaking into tech? So what ed tech platform or boot camp did you attend? How long did it take you to land your first role? And then also, if you can tell everybody what that moment was like when you received your first offer letter.
No, of course. Yeah. So I went to YellowTail Tech back in I thought- I think 2013, 2012, 2013, and the only YellowTail Tech only had Linux system administration courses. The course I started in February, and it was about 6 to 8 months from there. But then I got my first offer letter after in May.
Okay.
After I got my certificate in February of 2014.
Okay, great.
2014.
So
Yeah.
you did Linux and it was 6 to 8 months,
Yes.
and then you finished it, you said February, but by May is when you got your offer letter to start the company.
Correct. Correct. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Yo, that's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
Incredible.
So sorry. Let me. I know I started right before the summer, so it was like May. I started in May, and then it was like 6 to 8 months, like through December, and I got the course ended in January, like the beginning of January, and
Mhm.
I took the certificate literally 2 weeks after the course, and I passed. I remember like February in the month of February, and I got my first official offer in May. Now I started literally. I still remember it was right after Memorial Day. Right after
So
Memorial Day.
So what was that moment like when you got the offer? I don't know if they gave you a call or if it was an email, but like what was could you tell us that moment and like what that felt like?
It was. I still remember to this day. I still remember it to this day. I was literally in that my old job there, and the recruiter called me online, and it was really weird. Like the whole it. I did the recruiter first, then the recruiter wanted to talk to the manager, and also then I went had to have a meeting with the manager. The manager's like, "Yeah, let's just do a phone call." I'm like, "Okay, this is super weird," because I was like I figured like the whole old school thing. You got to dress up, suit and tie, everything, show up.
Yeah.
But my manager back then was like really like down to earth.
Yeah.
It's funny, and so we kind of postponed it. We met up like a few days later at a Panera because the job for the location had like you had to do a badge, and so he said let's just meet at a Panera. He discussed. I went through everything that I went through, and he basically hired me on the spot, right then and there. He hired me right on the spot, and from there, the sky was the limit after that moment. And I was literally like telling my wife, my mom's that I got a job because I felt in that moment like in my position that I had then, I felt stuck. I felt
Yeah.
like I wasn't gonna go anywhere. I felt like I had the job. Like if somebody died or somebody got fired, then I'll move up. But then
Yeah.
I did everything that I could there. I was a great employee back then. And everything that I learned from that job, like retail and everything, how to talk to customers, I appreciate all that. But
Mhm.
once I got that offer letter, I felt like it was a whole new beginning. I was scared. I was nervous, but I was excited and everything
Yeah.
because it was something better and that's something that I was looking for.
I would love to know from everybody in the comments, is there anybody here where you feel like that, where you can resonate with what Chip said, where either one, you feel stuck in your career, and it isn't even about a certain income, because sometimes, you know, y'all could be in a career where you're making pretty good money, but you still feel stuck, or you feel like you've hit a ceiling. And so I definitely know a lot of people feel that way. So I'm curious to know from you all. But so anyway, so Chip, so you mentioned that you did YellowTail Tech. You finished it. It was 6 to 8 months. You finished it, and then a few months later, you started at your first tech company, which is incredible. But let's go back to the beginning. So you mentioned that you worked in the parts department at a car dealership.
Hmm.
But can you tell us, like, okay, what was that like? Like, what was that like being in the parts department? And what was it that led you to say, yo, I'm tired of this. I want to go ahead and get in the tech industry, and how that led you to YellowTail Tech?
I was, working there at the dealership. I was doing a little bit of everything. I did the parts department. I did the tag and title. I did, shop running and all. But I felt that I wanted something more. I felt it
Mhm.
inside of me that I wanted more and that I deserve more. So I kind of like planted that little seed in me that always, and it kind of grew. And at the point at that time in my life, I was like, I had my first daughter, and so I said I need to push more and more, and I need to give something for my wife, but also for myself.
Yeah.
I felt that I was stuck, and
Yeah.
I kept telling me like you deserve more than this, and I kept looking and looking, and I literally still remember it like a movie. I went
Yeah.
out to lunch one day. I don't even know why, and I think I had something. But I was like, let me go out. I went to the closest supermarket, and I saw that like a poster right there. Before like YouTube advertising and all that.
Yeah.
So I had the poster that I saw the poster there. I want to become a Linux system admin. Price range, salary range could go from 80 to 90K. And
Man.
so I saw that. I took a picture of it, and luckily I signed up with the course with one of my friends,
Yeah.
which actually helped me out a lot more because I was able to push myself, and I pushed him, he pushed me, and we got through the course together. And I motivated him, and he motivated me. Um, it was, the first year. My daughter was basically just turning one, um, and so it was back then it was all in person, a class of
Yeah.
10. And so I right after work I would leave, getting stuck in traffic for 30 minutes just to get to the court for 2 hours. I wouldn't Sometimes I'd
Wow.
be leave my house at 7 o'clock, won't be home until 10 o'clock at night because of the from the class. But I stuck with it. I had talked to my wife about it, and my family. She supported me, which was great. So it was. I also gave her thanks to what I have today is because of my
Yeah.
wife. Also because I pushed myself even more.
Yeah.
I was in the deep end, in the tech industry, but I kept floating, kept pedaling, and in my point in time now, I'm on shallow waters and walking and breathing
Yeah.
and
I love
nicely,
it.
breathing that fresh air up there.
I love it.
Yeah.
Yo, there's two things that you said, and I want to make sure that everybody here, like, I know y'all heard what he said, but I really want to double down on it to really highlight it, because it really kind of blows my mind. Like, one thing I want us to notice that when he did YellowTail Tech in 2013, that was before the boot camp or the ed tech platform boom. So, like, I know some of you here have been in tech already. Some of you here, many of you here are not in the industry, and your first time hearing about, the fact that, hey, you don't have to go to college to get in the tech industry, either was through me or through someone else online. Understand that when he did it, this was back before this was a thing. So the leap of faith he had to take to do that, to trust in himself, was huge, because, you know like, for him to not have had like as many content creators talking about the tech industry and getting in the tech industry and doing something like YellowTail Tech is really major. That's one thing that I want to point out. The other thing I want to point out is the fact that right now YellowTail Tech is virtual. You can do it from anywhere. But he, at the time when he was doing it, like he mentioned, he had to get off work and then drive 30 minutes through traffic just to get to the classes. So the reason why I want to point this out is to highlight truly how blessed we are. Sometimes we overlook the blessings. We want things to be, we just want it to just be handed to us, but to realize that things are significantly better now than they were even back then, that, you know, no one has to drive to YellowTail Tech to get the education. And two, this isn't just you stepping out doing it and not knowing people who've done it. You have his interview, you have his story, as well as some other people from YellowTail Tech that I've interviewed as well. So I just want to point that out, because oftentimes whenever we're all stuck where we're at, we think like, man, like, why isn't it easier? But instead, I want us to retweak our minds and realize, man, how, I don't want to say easy, but how much easier it is now than it was back then. So that's, man, that's really incredible to hear about that,
Yeah.
Chip.
No, but yeah, back then, I didn't have the network class that they have now at the beginning. I didn't have the internship, so the advantage that the students have now who sign up, they have internship, they have career supporters, everybody they can help lean on is for support. Back then, it was just literally Juby, the owner, and his wife, and that's it. And
Yeah.
so I had to be coachable. That's another positive thing.
Yeah.
It will be a plus. Be coachable.
Yeah.
Listen. Trust in the process. Everything that Juby said, it literally happened. Literally
Man,
happened.
that is
So
that's so
yeah,
incredible. You
yeah,
know what?
yeah.
I was gonna ask about that, but you're already touching on it, so we'll go there really quickly. Uh, so if you can speak to, you touched on this a little bit, but if you can speak to some of the differences. So the differences between when you did Yellowtail Tech, and again, you still got in the industry, versus today, versus like some of the things that are provided now. I know you mentioned the internship. I know you mentioned the I'll let you kind of rattle all the pieces off, and I want y'all to pay attention. The purpose of this, y'all, is so that y'all hear how it's still possible to do Yellowtail Tech and still get in the industry without all of these pieces. But I want you to hear the other pieces that they're providing to really provide assistance.
Yeah. So, like I said, they do the internship. I didn't go through it, but I know that they have the internship set up as if you're in a real work environment, creating tickets, as in tech industry.
Yeah.
You also have one-on-one support. You have weekend support, student supports. So a lot of support sessions. But obviously, the more initiative you take in wanting to study, wanting to learn, the better it is for you.
Yeah.
You and the first 7 8 weeks, you do a basic of introduction to network,
Mhm.
enough to know what is the network with different kind of network connections and physical, virtual, and cloud networking. So I didn't have that. You also have access to the virtual system, which we sort of didn't have back then. And also cert prep has evolved a lot more. Um, so it's a real blessing right now what they have, what the students have. So back then it was literally, we had our laptop, we had to deploy our own virtual machines every time, and every time we wanted to practice for the cert prep, we had to basically break into the grub, point it to a network and to build the whole system out again over and over again. While here, they can just spin up a server and practice on cert prep.
Man,
Yeah.
I it's so cool how one of the things that I'm a fan of with Yellowtail Tech, because I know Juby, if anybody's missed out, he's mentioned Juby a couple times. Juby is the founder of Yellowtail Tech, and it's really interesting to me how they're constantly adding different things and just kind of constantly making it better. Again, what it was like before was enough, but to be adding things to it to make it better for people, I think is a really incredible thing. Really incredible. I saw a couple people here in the chat. I was looking for some of the comments. I've seen a couple of you mention that you're currently in Yellowtail Tech. Someone mentioned how they're enjoying their experience right now at Yellowtail Tech. And so, yeah, a couple of y'all that are here, or any of you all that are here in the chat right now that are currently in Yellowtail Tech, yeah, let people know in the comments like what your experience is like in the program. Any questions that you can answer as well, or comments that you want to leave on it. I'm confident enough to say that y'all can do that because, again, like I know the Yellowtail Tech is an amazing, amazing program. Anyway, so again, for everyone who has questions, I want to give you all a quick highlight. Make sure on Instagram that you're posting your questions in the designated questions section. So that way I'm not missing your questions once we get around to your questions. Make sure you're taking notes, that you're paying attention, y'all, because again, this is an incredible, incredible life-changing opportunity that you all have before you. And so, all right. So Wick Dlama says, yes, I've been in the same position for 7 years. The pay is good, but my skill set does not make me attractive if I leave my job. Yeah, one of the beautiful things, instead of me commenting on this, I'll ask Chip. Uh, so Chip, based off that comment where they mentioned that, okay, yeah, they're making pretty good money, but if they leave their job, they don't have too many different options. Is Linux what you're doing? Is your skill setting and then the skill set of network admin, like you were talking about earlier, is that something where it's just kind of like a one opportunity thing, or is it something where you're able to have a variety of different opportunities and spaces in the tech industry that you can move around?
In the tech industry, you can really move around a lot. It's
Mhm,
quite easier. But technically, it always focus on what your first tech job is. If,
mhm,
for example, if your first tech job is related to storage, you're going to basically master storage and might expand onto that. But if your first job is about baseline configuration, so you'll be dealing with deployments of servers, deployment of OSs, security patches, and all. So it all depends on what you do. But you
yeah,
can, within the tech industry, you're able to use those skill sets and apply it to different other jobs, and they might find you attractive.
mhm,
Depending on what you've been, how you're able to express yourself and what you've been exposed to.
mhm,
So, if you've been installing patches or installing security software tools, and so you can say, look, I took lead on deploying a bunch of security patches on all our servers. I'm the one to maintain those securities. I'm the one to make sure that and once a server or a customer requests a new server or an application, I make sure that our baseline configuration is applied. So within those lines, you can add. I know how to do Ansible. I know how to do Python. I learned while in the tech industry or in my industry. I learned how to do this. Also, learning how to or telling yourself I can do more than just install, or if you know how to teach somebody what you know at your job, also writing documentation is a big plus on in the industry world, because sometimes when you go to the job, you might be in a team of 3 or 4, but they might not know everything, so you need a knowledge based article in order to complete your job. And so if you know how to write those articles and explain it and teach it, then it'd be good in the next job, and that might boost you even more.
yeah. Can I ask you this, Chip? So I'm going to be real. Let me know in the comments who all kind of agrees with this sentiment. So a lot of what you're saying, I'm sure to a lot of people here is probably going over their head, because a lot of the terms, like a lot of people here don't even know what those terms are. They're like, I don't
Yeah,
know. You say when you mention storage, a
yeah.
lot of people here are like, storage. You got a skill set in storage. They're like, what does that have
Mm.
to do with tech? Like, so when people who do YellowTail Tech, are these things that they will learn? Like let's say it this way: someone coming completely off the streets from scratch, and they're
Mhm.
like, "Yo, I don't have a degree. I don't have experience in this industry. I don't know what storage is. I don't know what anything technical is." Is YellowTail Tech, when it comes to the Linux program, the same one that you did? Is it something that someone coming off the streets will be able to learn top to bottom in a secure way that they'll be able to land a high paying role?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So you basically, in the courses, we say, we're crawling right now, and then we're crawling, and then we're wobbling, and then you're walking, and by the end of the cert prep, we're running. We're
Yeah,
running
I
to
love
that tunnel. So that's how we take. So
it.
that's how we do it. That's how we say. But yeah, you learn everything. You go from zero to industry expert within those 6 to 8 months, and you'll be able to explain all this, what you do, and confident. Because you know
Yeah.
it. You touched it. You've done it once.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right, so now you mentioned, of course, we talked a lot about YellowTail Tech, your experience, the resources, the education that they give you. Can you talk about some of the challenges that you face when it came to actually getting into the industry? and how you're able to overcome some of those challenges. Because there are people that here, there's some people here that they've seen me interview people who finish YellowTail Tech and are working in the industry. They've seen that, but they're the people where they trust the education from YellowTail Tech, but they might be fearful of, okay, well, if they'll be able to perform well when it comes to the interviewing and when it comes to any challenges in the market. What is something that you would say to that?
I would just say practice what you're going to say. Go over your resume. Make it a conversation between the hire managers.
Yeah.
Explain what you're doing. Throw in some commands there. And during my interviews and stuff, I threw in commands to know what I've been dealing with or what I've been exposed to. And so
What is a command when you say
a
you
command
threw
is
in?
basically something. It's a command prompt or a command, and basically you're telling the computer to do something. An
Okay.
example: touch is a command which creates a file inside the Linux terminal. touch, and so you can obviously throw those, let's say, commands or lingos that you've been exposed to that, and so the less questions they ask,
Mhm.
don't make it so broad that they ask you, feedback or more questions after that.
Yeah. All right, good stuff. All right, y'all. So I see a lot of different people popping in and popping out. I want to make sure that you all know to make sure that you are putting your questions in the proper designated question area, so that way we can get to your questions later. For those that missed out on it, Chip, who's here with me right now, he went from working in the parts department at a car dealership, no tech experience, no tech education degree background. He did YellowTail Tech, and it was a 6 to 8 month program. And it took him a few months, and he broke into the tech industry. And now he's been working in the industry, but now he is also an instructor at YellowTail Tech. So the person that's asking what boot camp did he do, I just mentioned it twice. So just comment the word Linux or Linux admin. It's right there in the pinned comment. Those of you on YouTube and LinkedIn, click the drop down and you'll see the link. All you have to do is click on the link on YouTube and LinkedIn. Click on the link, so that way you can get access to YellowTail Tech. But on Instagram, just comment the word Linux or Linux admin. You'll get a DM. Y'all know how the automations work on social media. You'll get a DM and it'll have the information as well as the link. The really cool thing I want to highlight to you all is that you actually can have they have a free consultation call so you can speak to someone. I'm going to be very real with y'all. I'm about to say something that I've never said before. So I'll say something I've never said before. This is one of the things I really appreciate about YellowTail Tech, is that they don't accept everyone. And what I mean by that, you don't need to have a degree, you don't need to have a super special background. What I mean by that is YellowTail Tech is not a school where they're just trying to get as many people as they can. They're very selective in a way that they want to be overly confident that they have that you're a good fit for the roles that they have, as well as being able to secure the roles in the industry. So that's something I really love about them. I know a few other people that personally talk about YellowTail Tech and encourage people to check them out. And that's something behind the scenes a lot of other people in tech talk about, is how, man, YellowTail Tech, they're not a program where they're just trying to get as many people as they can. They're very selective. So that's one of the things I really appreciate. So make sure that you have that free consultation call. See if it's a great fit for you. Linux in general and cloud is a booming industry in tech that's only growing in demand, and is growing even more given everything that's happening with cloud and AI, so on and so forth. Nevertheless, I at least wanted to mention that to you all. One of the things that I truly appreciate about the program. Um, Chip, if you can, so you mentioned already about how your experience with YellowTail Tech, some of the challenges when it came to getting into the industry, and how you're able to overcome some of them. For people, because there's new people that are here who they just recently might have followed me. They might not even follow me. They might have just popped in on the live, and they don't even know beyond the pay, because I talk a lot about six figures in the tech industry, whatever. But beyond the pay, what are some of the benefits and perks that you've experienced since being in the tech industry that you would say, not even just not even just being at the car dealership, but just other traditional industries that most people aren't familiar with or they don't get to experience?
Number one thing for me now is working from home. Yeah, I wouldn't. I tell you right now, yeah, I work from home now. Obviously, it became full time since I started since the pandemic. But I'm the one dropping off my kids at school, which I never imagined I would do.
Yeah.
I pick them up in case if during half days, I'm the one picking them up. If they're sick, they can just be next to me while I'm still working. So I'm technically not. I'm not taking any time off. The great thing about it, also in the tech industry, before I felt like in my other jobs, I felt like it was to ask for time off felt like it was like pulling teeth sometimes, and how to tell your manager I need this day off, and you didn't have to hear that back talk saying, oh man, why are you going to take off, are you sure we're short staff already, you know how it is during these times. And sometimes you just didn't want to ask because you didn't want to hear anything, or but now I'm like, yeah, I'm taking vacation next week. I'll be out tomorrow. All right. Everything's all right. I'll have my phone on me in case of anything. And half the time, like, no, Chip, just turn off your laptop. You're with your family.
Yeah.
And in one of my interviews, that really, got to me, and I told me like, this is for me now, basically, and it shocked me completely. In one of my interviews with my hiring managers, I asked him like, "What do we do if it's snowing or we can't come in before the pandemic? What happened if it's snowing? What do I do? Do I open my laptop or something?" He's like, "No, just be with your family." And I'm like, wow, that's crazy for like I feel like a manager to say that those kind of things, like,
Yeah.
don't come in if it's blazing, if it's a blizzard, come in. But no,
Yeah.
they actually said just stay home, go play in the snow with your kids. And I'm like,
Yeah.
wow, that's crazy right there for me, right?
Who's all worked at a company before where you had a manager where whether it was snowing, it was hailing, whatever it was, they were like, "Yo, you still need to find a way to make it to work. Unless we tell you to not come in, you need to find a way." That's man, that's incredible. What is that? What is that like? Because so I don't have any children. I'm not married. I don't have any children. So as a father, as a husband, what is that like to hear? Hey, if there's a snowstorm or if something's going on and you can't get into work, cool. Just spend time with your family, enjoy yourself. You'll still be paid. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, what is that feeling like for you?
Blessing. It's a blessing completely for me. I felt like at first it's a blessing. It's great to know you're more relaxed in the sense of they know because they have families also. They put their
Yeah.
family first, and so but obviously everything's with for me everything's with respect. Obviously I'm not taking off every day. I'm not saying, oh, I'm going to be off tomorrow. I'm going to be off tomorrow. I'm not going to say that. Obviously what I do in my work is completely 100% respectful. I let my manager know with time, but sometimes obviously emergencies do
Yeah.
come up, and so it's kind of nice to know that I can say, "Hey, like my son's sick, I gotta go pick him up," or my daughter's sick. I don't feel well today. Like, all right, hopefully, and the response is, "Oh, well, hopefully your daughters are okay, Chip. Hopefully they feel better, or hey,
Yeah.
Chip, hopefully you get better." Especially during the pandemic time, it was pretty rough for everyone, in my family as well. And so they're like, my manager, obviously I had to take a few days off, and they're like, please do not interrupt Chip with any emails or phone calls. And so
Yeah.
it was great. It's a great feeling. It's a great
Yeah.
feeling once you get in the tech industry. Obviously I'm not saying every tech industry is like this, or any,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
some days you might be in a high security job that they need you, obviously because
Mhm.
you're dealing with high sensitive stuff. And so, but in my line of work, it's great. It's pretty flexible in the sense. And so
Yeah.
it's amazing.
Yeah, I generally tell people that the norm for the culture in the tech industry is relatively relaxed. Yeah,
Hmm.
you can be at a company where that company is pretty high intense, where or that company has a micromanager, but generally the gist of the culture in the tech industry, especially in a role like yours in Linux, the culture is much more relaxed, much more, you know, I guess friendly is the best way for me to
Yeah.
put it. Like
Yeah.
compassionate, like they actually
Yeah.
genuinely care. They're real
Exactly.
people.
Yep.
So I love that. King Joe said that he's in the trucking industry. He said, "Yeah, whether it's rain, sleet, or snow, I gotta go." Like he has to go.
I
That's
tell you.
funny. That's funny. So look, so let's get into some other questions. I see y'all are dropping some questions in the question section. We're about to get to y'all's questions in a moment. So just hang tight. So Chip, so you broke into the tech industry. If you can, so how many companies have you worked at, and also what led you to transition to now being an instructor at YellowTail Tech? So you weren't just a student who broke into the tech industry, but you ended up coming back around and now you're one of the instructors that are there. So you could tell us just, I guess, how many companies you worked at, and yeah, and then also what led you to come back to YellowTail Tech, but now as an instructor.
So I worked about like four to five tech industries, and so and during that time, Julie did reach out to me like after my second daughter was born, say, Chip, would you like to become an instructor? And obviously, I talked to my wife, you mentioned, but I told him, unfortunately, at this moment in time, it's not the best. It's not best for me right now.
Mhm.
But I knew I always wanted to give back, and because the first, I like to teach. I like to teach people, and second, I wanted to give back to YellowTail Tech, especially to Juby, because he's if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't be here right now. You
That's
know, so
incredible.
so I always told myself, how can I give back? And so after that, I reached out again to Juby or Terry as well, and to see if I can, or they reached out to me, and I reached out back to them saying if I can become a teacher. And so, obviously they said yes, of course. First, I started as a TA, basically following the lead instructor and how what they do, what they say, kind of that exactly what to say and what to expect, kind of thing. And so during that time, I was really like a support TA, supported the students there. I did the support sessions on the weekend, and so it kind of made me more relaxed in approaching the students and trying to teach the students on what to expect and what to do. Then after like a year, like after that a year, they asked me to become a lead instructor, and I kind of was nervous, scared in the beginning because I didn't want half the students to say, "Man, like you suck, man. Just go back to your your job," you know. So obviously, but no. After that, after the first class, I kind of got real relaxed with it, and I enjoyed it as well. And it was great. Honestly, I
That's
enjoyed it very
incredible.
much, and the best part of it, obviously, is after the certification, and seeing those. We're on Slack a lot, so obviously the students respond back saying, "Oh, I just passed my certificate. Oh, I just passed my certificate. I want to thank the Chip, Juby, and everybody, the TAs, and all." So that's a great feeling as well. That's a great feeling.
Yo, that's incredible. That's incredible. I'm curious about, and y'all, this is important for everybody to hear, even those of you that are in tech, that recently got in tech, whether you did YellowTail Tech or something else to get into the industry. We need to talk about the long game and having a long-term plan to be able to scale and build. So Chip, if you could speak to that, like, so the question, and I have it written down here. So so most people just want to collect their check in the tech industry, and then they want to be low key, or they just want to live their life, which is totally fine. Nothing's wrong with that. But at at this point in time, you've been in the industry now for about a little over a decade. Why would you say it's important to have a long-term game plan? Like, and what would you say that looks like? And then also, why is it important to give back? So one, not just think, okay, I'm gonna get in the tech industry and that's it. But why would you say it's important to have a long-term game plan? And how does someone create a long-term game plan? And then how should they implement giving back to some capacity?
So I guess let's go to your first question about the long-term game plan. Um, it's it's the great thing about tech is that um, you're you're forced to learn new technology. As we see here, AI wasn't here the whole time, and now AI, obviously you see it everywhere. But in the tech industry, it's slowly getting up there because obviously government compliancy and all that. So it's all different world then. But the long term plan is you have to find a way to keep on learning, because you will get left behind. You know what I'm saying? You need to evolve your skills. You can't. You gotta be able to do 10 tasks. In probably your first year, 10 tasks will take you 1 week. On, but after the years, your manager are probably going to be expecting you to do those 10 tasks, and you have to show them as well how to do those 10 tasks within 1 hour, and
Mhm.
still get paid the same thing, So, and that's the long term game, is try to find a way that finds your interest and keep on learning, because after you don't want to get left behind. You don't want to get stuck on an old version of Linux while everybody's running the new version, and also you got to expand on not just Linux but also learning languages, computer languages. Those comes
Mhm.
down the road. Building your resume, getting more certificates. There's a bunch of Linux certificates, a bunch of Red Hat certificates that they have their own journey. You can start with the Linux system admins, and then after that would be the Linux engineer. Then you have the architecture, and then at that point, if you get the architecture exam, which takes many years and it's very difficult, but you're at that point you're setting your own salary. So you tell
Incredible.
them like, if you want me, these are my mm, this is my contract, or this is what I want, and if I don't get it, I'll find somebody who will.
Yeah,
That kind of thing. So,
exactly.
and the same thing, AWS. A lot of things AWS, they have their own their own path.
Mhm.
Azure, Microsoft, they have their own. Google has their own path as well. But it's also is what interests you. Don't just try to get a bunch of certificate and not learn on those certificates as well. You
Yeah,
know, so that's the great thing. So the journey is basically prepare to keep on learning, even
yeah.
if it's a small thing one day. The next thing is another day. And then I guess, what was your second question on that?
Well, just the giving back part, like why
Uh,
is it important? Because sometimes people can just get caught up in, and it's not wrong. I wouldn't say it's wrong if anyone just wants to make a lot of money in tech and just live their life. But what's something you would say that you think people should consider, why they should also consider giving back once they're in the industry or once they've scaled in the industry?
so I think giving back is great, because I think the more you give, the more you'll get in the back end side, and it helps you out as well as a person, as a tech person, because if you're able to learn it and teach it to somebody, and then I feel that you've mastered that skill.
Yeah.
In mastering your skills and not forgetting as well. Because going back, sometimes they say, man, I just got to go back to the basics, and so teaching is, you start with the basics and you'll be able to expand. And then if you teach 1 year and then the next year you say, okay, how can I expand it? How can I push myself to become a better teacher or a better tech person? So you're actually explaining yourself. I guess you're teaching the students how to be better tech people, because you've been in the industry so far, you've already learned it, and so you know what to expect. And so you're actually not just helping them get a skill set, but you're helping them in the job. Actually, when I'm teaching, I kind of refer back to my industry and what I've been exposed to. And so I tell them, hey guys, this is what I do in my job. So these are my approaches that I take, and so this is what you might want to bring to your work experience. And so
Mhm.
it feels good also, to get that letter saying, hey, thank you for Chip for teaching me so much. This is an industry, and also it all helps you build your network.
Yeah.
I'm getting a bunch of LinkedIn requests from students, and I'm like, yeah, let's go, let's and recruiters and a bunch of people who want to connect, and I'm like, yeah, sure, no problem, and so it also helps you build your network, because one day you might be in that same shoe. Your industry might be bought out and they fire everybody, but what happened? You go back to your LinkedIn or your Instagram, or you go back to your class and say, hey guys, is anybody hiring right now? And so, plus, you're a teacher, you can add that to your resume, which makes you, it's great because you have a skill, because you're able to teach somebody, you're able to talk to somebody. Um, so, those are the great thing about giving back, just not just giving back, but also you're learning and you're growing as a person.
Yeah, I can actually attest to that because since a lot of my content has been around helping people get in the industry, dropping little nuggets about LinkedIn optimization or dropping nuggets about interview coaching, I've noticed that it's like I'm overly training myself to where I'm performing excellent in interviews and my LinkedIn is up to par. And so
Hmm.
it's keeping me on top of my toes. So me giving back initially it was just to help people, but I realized, man, this is actually keeping me sharp and it's keeping me on the edge when it comes to things. And it's
Yeah,
making me stay on top of the latest trends, which of course is helping me. And so, yeah, I love that you mentioned that earlier, how us giving back in several ways it benefits us as well. And yeah, that's why the irony is that people who tend to just want to gatekeep or keep things to themselves, many of them tend to lack a lot of the growth and opportunity that they could possibly have. Last question that I have before we get to everyone else's questions. And again, everyone on Instagram, make sure y'all are putting your questions inside of the designated. There's like a designated question section on Instagram. You'll click a drop down, and it'll open up for you to post your questions there because we're about to get to y'all's questions, and it's first come, first serve. But my question, Chip, this is the last question that I have before we get to everyone else's questions. So AI, everyone knows everything that's happening with AI and how AI is just the constant thing we're all hearing about right now. Is Yellowtail Tech How is YellowTail Tech addressing AI within the program or curriculum or in any capacity that you feel is beneficial for students in the program when it comes to them being in the market?
for AI, I because I realize not really AI is so brand new.
Yeah.
It's literally brand new. So I don't know if Yellowtail Tech is actually teaching or
Yeah.
going to implement anything about AI
Yeah, because
because
AI, does it even have any real correlation when it comes to cloud yet? Because it's so new, like you mentioned.
it's so new. It's basically it's a tool, and so it's
Mhm.
a whole different game. So if again, like I said, I'm looking at test to what in my line of work, they recently just implemented a website that allows you to use AI for your job as a tool.
Mhm.
So, but that's about it. It's making an impact a lot sooner than other tech industries like technology. But AI, yes, it is around. But Yellowtail Tech, I feel I really don't know what they're going to do with AI
Yeah.
or introduce you and all that because it's so brand new.
Mhm.
Um, even even implementing it at the work, it's a whole different ball game. It's a
Yeah.
whole different technology that um, obviously you can use it for your work and all, but implementing it at job, it's a whole different ball game.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned how AI is a tool because many people, especially people that aren't in the tech industry, they think AI itself is a job. They think, oh, I can be an AI person, but it's like, well, no, you can leverage AI as a tool within your job. And but I appreciate you also touching on how it's so new, especially when it comes to Linux or cloud, that right now it's like, okay, even it being implemented, like you're in the space, you work in Linux, and that's not something you see is really like overwhelmingly being adopted yet because it's still so new.
Yeah, and also AI takes a bunch of information from different places. Let's say it just gathers a bunch of information and just it spits it out for you in a format that you would appreciate. Like how do I fix a car? So it's just pulling a bunch of different information. But then you got to take it a step further. Where is AI getting this information?
Yeah,
you
it's true.
know so so where is AI getting this information, who's putting that information in? And so basically you put in bad information, bad if you put in bad data, dirty data, dirty data is going to come out. So
That's
you have to
true.
also think about that as well,
Yeah.
because like I said, AI is just getting a bunch of information from different places and spitting it back out on your screen. So obviously be careful with what you're putting down. Obviously you always want to check your resources and everything. But yeah, AI is a great tool obviously if you use it well. But I also I think Google just recently Google Chrome, they just incorporated AI generator. So if I troubleshoot a bunch of stuff every day and I see AI generated this problem, so I click on it and I see it and it
Yeah,
does help out. So obviously I'm not against AI or anything, but like I said, I feel
yeah,
like AI is more of a tool, and if you want to learn, it's going to be a deep dive into that one.
yeah,
So
yeah. I love it. I love it. So we're gonna go ahead and get to some of the questions that we have here. I don't know if my Instagram is glitching because I keep seeing questions pop up in the question bubble, but every time I click on it, the questions are gone. So I'm going to do something that I usually don't do. We are going to address the questions. So if everyone, if y'all can post your questions in the comment section. So if you post your questions in the comment section, we'll do our best to get to the questions. I might need your help a little bit with this Chip. So if there's any question that you see that you're like, hey, yeah, I'm going to go ahead and address this question, you can go ahead and bring it up. While y'all are posting your questions on Instagram, while I'm waiting to see y'all's questions on Instagram, I'm going to go ahead and address some of these questions that are from YouTube and LinkedIn. So let's see. All right. So we got a couple questions here from YouTube. Uh, so David M says, hey guys, I joined a cloud mastery bootcamp. In your opinion, is a help desk job more attainable to me rather than thinking I'm trying to start in some entry level cloud role? Do you see that question, Chip?
yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Um, yeah, so help desk, it is attainable. You know, with the boot camp, it might help you out. But I would just say don't get stuck in help desk. You know, because in help desk, you're literally helping somebody reset their password, um, reset their account, replacing their monitor or replacing a mouse, and that kind of a help desk, installing an application, real basic things. Um, but yeah, getting entry level cloud role, you might as well just go there, because it can take you a lot further and a lot faster if you get an entry level cloud role.
Yeah, pay wise, help desk doesn't pay very well.
Yeah,
So yeah, that's why y'all never hear me again, y'all. If 9 times out of 10, if y'all don't hear me talk about a role in tech, it's because it doesn't pay well. Like web development does not pay well. There's a few roles that I can list that don't pay well, and that's why I don't talk about them. Yeah, we don't have to talk immediately about a role that's going to make you $150,000 out the gate, but just like with Linux, like he mentioned, starting out on average, you're starting out somewhere between on average 80 to 90,000. I've interviewed people who also are alumni from YellowTail Tech, the same program he did, where they started out over $100,000 out the gate. That's not like a really outlandish thing, but usually, just to keep it modest, YellowTail Tech is like, hey, you know what? Roughly 80 to 90,000, just because they're very conservative, which again is one of the things I love about them. So anyway, so let's get to the other questions. And I'm sorry, I might have missed some of the questions y'all posted on Instagram. Let's see. Let's see. So looking for some questions in the chat. So again, y'all make sure y'all are posting your questions, because if we don't see too many questions, I'm gonna wrap it up. And y'all gonna be in my DMs trying to ask the questions. And I'm gonna be like, nope, you should have said something during the stream. So E Brown says, E Brown says, hey, Cyrus and Chip, my name is Eric. I'm currently enrolled in the YellowTail Tech Bootcamp. Congratulations. I am halfway through the process. I joined because of Cyrus. This program is a real gem. I love it. Oh, you just wanted to show some love about YellowTail Tech. Yeah, that's dope. You're happy that you're enjoying it so far, because it's always cool to not just get education, but to also really appreciate the boot camp that you're in. Or excuse me, not boot camp, because I always say boot camp. YellowTail Tech is more than a boot camp, but it's always good to be in a program where you are actually getting real gems from it, and you can see the value. Where it's not just, okay, I'm learning a bunch of stuff, but it's clicking where you're like, okay, I see why this is valuable to companies. I see why this pays really well. So, all right, looks like we got a question from Instagram. Mm-mm. Is there anyone that you know that can give advice for someone who's leaving a position similar to an educator? Is the transition hard? So, so Chip, you
Mm.
are again not just a student from YellowTail Tech who you went from being a parts. I can't want to say parts dealer, but you went from working in the parts department at a dealership to doing YellowTail Tech and now working in the industry. We think about someone who's an educator. What would you say is the learning curve or complication for them compared to yourself?
I'd be serious. I think it would be the same. Just getting into something new. You'll probably get nervous and scared. But you, as an educator, you might appreciate all the new material that you're going to be learning, and you might find it a better way to teach the course or teach yourself about it. But yeah, I don't. I think just you'll be nervous because I was nervous, scared, and during literally on the first day of class, I felt like I said like, "Yep, this is for me. This is for me." And we just opened up the laptop, literally like installed one thing, and my professor just showed me, basically the instructor, just showed me the terminal and what to do, and from that moment on, like I fell in love. So I
Yeah.
think for you as a person said that as an instructor, I think they might appreciate it, a lot more and take that material, turn it around and teach themselves. Even it might be in a better way. But yeah, I've seen other instructors as well, previous instructors, teachers who joined the course and come out having teaching the courses on YouTube, creating their own course material on different technology, and so you might actually see a benefit, from that.
Yeah, we actually got a comment from someone who's currently in YellowTail Tech. She said she's a current educator transitioning now. She's currently in YellowTail Tech. She said you can do it. So you literally heard it here first from someone who's in the education industry. They're also in YellowTail Tech and they're making that transition. So they're literally in YellowTail Tech right now and they're saying, yeah, you can definitely do it. Um, so towards I can't even pronounce that. Tortens, I cannot pronounce that. They're asking, can you provide any information on apprenticeship? So, in YellowTail Tech, I know you had mentioned something in regards to an internship or apprenticeship earlier, Chip. Can you, I guess, answer this question? Like, what does YellowTail Tech do when it comes to that?
With the apprenticeship, this is basically just like I said, I never went through it. So, but from what I've heard, they give you like 80 tickets to complete on, and they have a whole platform on how to handle the tickets. You have weekly meetings with the manager, and you're basically left alone. You do one ticket, four tickets, and you have to complete it on your own completely. You can't get any help from anybody because it's basically your time to really think about, put yourself in the industry. You can't keep running to the teacher. You can't run to the students. You're gonna have to actually, start googling everything. Open the web browsers up, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. Don't. So the apprenticeship is a great opportunity, um, but you only do it after you pass the certificate. So you need to pass that certificate, and then you get into the internship. So it's kind of, so that's how they do that.
Yeah. So we got another question. Um, I feel like I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to allow you to speak to this, Chip. So the question is, they said, okay, I currently have a Security Plus, Network Plus, CND, and CEH with no tech background. Any suggestions as far as entry level positions?
Um, I honestly, I wouldn't be able to answer that because I'm not I don't know those certificates. So I
Yeah,
know the Network Plus, Security Plus. Yes, those are starting certificates now. Some I do see a lot of job postings saying you need to have your Security Plus, Security Plus, Security Plus. Network Plus is great as well. Um, but starting roles in those, I really don't. I wouldn't be able to answer that. I think that, yeah, if you want to answer that, please go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's kind of piggybacking off of what you're saying. So, y'all, this is one of the reasons, y'all, I always encourage either a boot camp or a educational platform like YellowTail Tech, because unfortunately, people online will just promote certifications. And again, many of the certifications will have a lot of value, like Security Plus, Network Plus, and others. They have a lot of value, but it's almost like you're collecting a lot of pieces to a puzzle, but no one is there to instruct you how the puzzle fits together. Meaning, you can get all of these different certifications. Some of them might not even be important to the industry that you're trying to work in tech. But at the end of the day, having a bunch of certifications doesn't allow you, it doesn't teach you how to communicate your knowledge and your transferable skills or your domain expertise during an interview. It doesn't teach you how to make sure your LinkedIn is properly set up. It doesn't teach you, okay, like a variety of different things. That's why I've always been anti getting certifications for the sake of getting certifications. It's significantly better to have someone give you a refined point of view of, hey, okay, get this certification, this certification, this certification. Now this is how you put it together. These are the pieces that matter. This thing is outdated, so on and so forth. So the fact that Chip, he's in the technical side of the industry. I'm in the non-technical side of tech, and both of us are, even on both of our sides, are like, yeah, it's great that you have those, but those by themselves is not like you need some refinement. And I'm not going to jump the gun and say, hey, just do YellowTail Tech, because that's not my heart. My heart is to at least do at least like a consultation or a coaching call with someone that can give you some guidance. Or worst case scenario, you could do the free consultation that YellowTail Tech has, where you can speak with the advisor and then tell them about those certifications, and they can mention to you, hey, yeah, you're good with this, you're good with that. Or, yeah, you might need to go ahead and do this within YellowTail Tech to help give you that refinement. Because that's really the piece that you need. But again, y'all don't jump on Udemy or any of these other platforms and just get some certifications and think, yeah, I'm gonna show these certifications to a recruiter, and I'm gonna get this job, because that doesn't prove that you have any experience. That's not a internship or apprenticeship like we were talking about. And again, it's a competitive market right now. The market's only going to be competitive, so that's why it's important to do a lot more. Um, uh, but great question though, and shouts out to you for you at least doing something to get some
Mhm.
of the education. All right, cool. So we're gonna do a quick rehash. I know it's a few people that jumped in here. We are about to wrap up, y'all. But just for everyone who missed out, so Chip here, he went from working in the parts department at a car dealership to doing YellowTail Tech. At the time, this was back before ed tech platforms were popular. This is back before there were tech content creators like myself telling people, hey, you can get in the tech industry. This was really just, he literally saw something I think he said at a store that was YellowTail Tech, and they said, hey, you can get an 80 to $90,000 job in Linux. And he, trusting in himself, went ahead and signed up for it because he wanted to get out of the space he was in. He wanted to basically make more money, get out of away from the ceiling that he was stuck in. He did YellowTail Tech. It was 6 to 8 months. After he finished it, a few months later, he started at his first tech company, has worked at several companies since then, has scaled up in the industry, income as well as seniority wise. And now he is also an instructor at YellowTail Tech. So nearly a decade later, now he's an instructor there. So again, y'all, this is really powerful to hear this, because understand he did this back when there was no one there that was there to say, hey, I did YellowTail Tech, but he still did it. So now you have someone like him and others that are like, no, I've done YellowTail Tech. This is a great program, XYZ. So he's able to break that stuff down for you. For anyone that wants a discount, just comment Linux admin. You see the pinned comment. Y'all know I give discounts to boot camps or ed tech platforms like YellowTail Tech that we recommend. This is not something where myself or Tech is New Black gets a kickback. We don't get like a commission for this. This is one of those rare scenarios where it's solely just telling you about a program based off of, hey, this program is a solid program. We don't get anything from this other than knowing that this is something that's going to be given back and helping people. So we're going to get to the last couple questions and we're going to go ahead and wrap up. Drew XR says, agreed, those certifications definitely help with jobs that require them, but only be a small plus if they don't. I guess maybe a small part of companies, or I don't know exactly how you meant that, but all right, cool. All right, get to other questions that y'all might have. Okay, great question. So someone asked, and Chip answered this earlier, but we'll still address this. They asked, were you working full time while you were doing YellowTail Tech? Is this something that they can do while can they have a 9 to 5 while learning from YellowTail Tech, because they're the breadwinner of their family and they can't quit their current job?
Yes. I was working Monday to Friday. I would be getting off at 5. The classes don't start till 7 o'clock. They run from 7 to 9. And so back then it was 7 to 9, but they still are from 7 to 9, either Monday or Wednesday or Tuesday and Thursday. And so for the first 7, 8 weeks, it's literally, if your class is on a Monday, it'll be Monday, Wednesday, and then Friday would be a network class. And then if you do Tuesday or Thursday, same time, 7 through 9, and then Friday would be the network class for 7 to 8 weeks. After those 7 to 8 weeks, network portion is done, and then you're just straight to Linux, which would be Monday, Wednesday, and then it'll be Friday support session, Saturday, Sunday support session as well. So yeah, definitely you can do this. This YellowTail was basically for people in the working field already, who wanted to switch their careers, who wanted something more, who wanted um, to grow as a person in their career field.
All right. So someone asked me, what's different about YellowTail Tech from other programs? So YellowTail Tech has Linux and admin. Linux and cloud admin. So Linux admin or cloud admin, which are two different roles in tech. And no other program I've ever talked about has cloud or Linux. They are some of the most in-demand, under talked about roles in tech. That the reason why the demand is growing is, y'all can imagine, think of the cloud industry or cloud in general. Everything is getting stored in the cloud right now. So think about it. All of us have whatever phone you have, whether it's an iPhone, Android, all of us are currently on Instagram, YouTube, or LinkedIn. We're streaming right now. This stream is getting stored somewhere. It's getting stored. So for instance, I'm on StreamYard. This is being recorded on StreamYard. Once this is over, this won't be saved to my computer. This is going to be saved to StreamYard's platform. How does how are they able to save all of this storage, or how do they have so much storage? It's because they're relying on a cloud provider. They're relying on either AWS, which is Amazon Web Services, which is a company, like it's Amazon, but it's their other company, or they're relying on Microsoft Azure. Basically, they're relying on all of these things being stored in the cloud. A lot of us have iPhones and we say, oh, this thing is in the cloud, or it's backed up in the cloud. Same thing. These are companies, industries where things are being stored. And understand, every second that goes by, more and more things are being stored in the cloud. So there are different cloud providers and companies that are constantly popping up. So again, as the world is going digital, even third world countries are becoming more digital. There is a constant growing demand for the cloud. Every single one of you that becomes a business owner, if you become a business owner and you need to have things digitally saved places, I don't care if it's Google Drive, I don't care where it's at, it's being stored in the cloud. So this industry is just going bonkers. So yeah, so that's what makes this different, is because this is a role in industry and tech that isn't just in high demand, but also, just as Chip mentioned earlier, it's one of those roles or industry in tech that where even AI is something where there isn't really even much AI can do for it, because just of the uniqueness of it. And so,
And the cloud service they're just Linux servers. when people talk about cloud, it's all Linux servers.
Oh, so all of them are Linux servers.
Yeah.
Okay, that's something I didn't know.
Yeah. So that's when people say cloud service, it's because they're on. It's all Amazon's all Linux based.
Yeah. Okay.
So that's why everything's going to the cloud, technically you can just say, oh, it's just going to a Linux server.
This
So,
this this for Bliss said, or they're storing it on local servers. Yeah, they are, but that's that's like some low-key outdated stuff. But no, that is true. Some companies are storing it on local servers, but that's a whole nother problem.
yeah,
Which
you
is
can.
better? Yeah, you're fine. Which is better, cloud or Linux? So cloud, and correct me if I'm wrong, Chip. Whenever you have a moment, no rush. Cloud pays better, but Linux is more of, and I might be wrong about this. From based on my education, Linux is more of a not entry level, but cloud is typically more advanced. And address that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Chip, or reword that for me.
Okay, so uh, if you either get into Red Hat, or if you get into the Linux course or the cloud course, you're gonna learn Linux either way. So because it's the ground foundation,
Okay.
basically, you need to know the foundation of Linux in order to get into Red Hat or the Linux course or the cloud course. With the cloud course, because obviously it's been around quite a few now, but it's you'll get paid fast. I guess you'll be able to control your salary more because it's such in a high demand job. Okay, so if you do the cloud course, I believe you're going to do the Amazon administration course, system admin course, and so you'll be able to, because there's high demand of people, you'll probably get paid a lot more, and then on your next job in the cloud service, you'll probably even get a 10 to 15,000 bump pay, depending on location, depending on where you are and all.
Um, This for Bliss says these jobs are called DevOps. So not necessarily. There are a variety of different jobs that you can get in this space. Can you speak to that as well, Chip? Because again, you know more of the roles in this space than I do, but I at least know that they're not all called DevOps. There's a
No,
variety of
yeah, no.
different in this space.
There's a variety. So DevOps is just basically, I want to say, just a position. DevOps, the development of operations. So
Mhm.
basically, it's just a fancier way of making the position like seem high. But really, in the end, it just, if you know your basics on Linux and you have the certificate on, you could eventually, if you stay in the job for long enough, you become a DevOps person. You
Mhm.
know how to integrate, how to do continuous integration, how to be able to control version, learning Git, and also there's different tools that you'll learn that eventually you become a DevOps person. You know, you won't be dealing with just servers, you'll be dealing with databases, connecting to all that, so you'll be jacks of all trades, let's say, in the computer world.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, y'all. So look, we're about to go ahead and wrap up. But again, for everyone who's tuning in that missed out, Chip, he went from working in the parts department at a car dealership to breaking into the tech industry by doing YellowTail Tech. And since then has worked at a variety of companies. And now he is also one of the instructors at YellowTail Tech. Roughly a decade later, he's now an instructor there as well. And so again, YellowTail Tech, they have Linux as well as cloud. Linux being something that's good to start out in, because that's the foundation, just as he mentioned before. Very, very high in demand roles in tech that pay very well, where especially when you move into cloud, you're able to have more demand over your pay. And so definitely check it out. Again, for anyone that's curious, if you're interested, if you're thinking about it, again, YellowTail Tech does not accept everyone, and it is cohort based, meaning that they can't accept everyone. So again, I would at least say if you're someone where you're like, okay, you're really interested, definitely, hop on a call, one of the consultation calls with them to see if you're a good fit and to see if it's a good fit for you before the closing for their upcoming cohort. And so it's a free consultation call. Definitely look into it. Again, one of the things I love about YellowTail Tech, they're not predatory. They're not going to try to convince you or tell you, no, you need to do it. they really want to make sure it's a good, perfect fit because they understand the value and the demand of the industry, and they want to make sure that they have students that are actually serious about it and not someone that just is very haphazard about it. That's one of the things I really love about them. So definitely look into it again on Instagram. Comment Linux or Linux admin, and you'll get the DM with the discount link. So that way, if you are that way, for everyone who does go ahead and sign up with YellowTail Tech, you will get a $500 discount off. Everybody on YouTube and LinkedIn, just click the drop down. You'll see the discount that's there, or excuse me, you'll see the link that's there for you to go to the site, and I have all of that stuff for you. And so, look, y'all, appreciate y'all so very much for coming on again. I appreciate y'all for investing in y'all selves. You know, make sure y'all hit up Chip on LinkedIn. And y'all know, hit me up if y'all have any other questions about it as well. Chip, thank you so much, bro, for taking time to come on here. I really appreciate you, man. And yeah, y'all, I'll see y'all in the DMs.
Thank you. Appreciate it. See you guys.